It seems that Chazal tell us that before Shmuel HaNavi was born, Klal Yisrael knew someone would be called Shmuel and would be a Navi. And at that time, any woman who had a child called their child Shmuel with the hopes that this child would become the great Navi, Shmuel HaNavi. Now, not all of them did, but Shmuel B'Korah Shmo, many of them became Nevi'im at a more basic level than Shmuel HaNavi. Many of them became great. My father would always point out that if we have high hopes, and if we have a vision, and if we have great goals, we'll accomplish amazing things.
Levitansky, thanks so much for joining the program.
Pleasure to be here with you today.
What's your official title?
My official title is National Director of Community Development.
It's a lot of words.
It is a lot of words.
How did that get started?
So I was running a Kollel in St. Louis. I got to St. Louis in 1997, and around 2008, I got a phone call one day from my Aaron Cutler. And he shared that BMG, Beth Medrash Gavoa, was in the Kollel building business. They really started the Kollel building business. And they wanted somebody to travel the country to work on helping new communities start Kollelim and better service Kollelim. So National Director of Community Development kind of speaks to what we're doing.
What does the day-to-day work look like, if there is a day-to-day work like?
So the fascinating thing about my job is that there is no day-to-day. I wake up in the morning and I have absolutely no idea how my day is going to end up and what I'm going to be doing. Definitely a lot of travel. What we've learned is if you want to help a community grow and build their Torah infrastructure and help strengthen their Torah resources, you've got to be there.
Boots on the ground.
Boots on the ground. You got to meet the people. You got to know the rabbis. You got to know the Balabatim, the key philanthropists. You have to know the key players in the community, the leaders of the school, the leaders of different organizations. And then when you're having a conversation with them, there's a trust that's built, and you're able to effectively service them, bring in the right kollel for the community, and if there's a challenge, to help them navigate that. So my day is involved with new communities, always new projects that we're involved with, and from the time I started in 2008 till today, it's a world of a difference in what I'm doing and where we're involved. And then there's troubleshooting that we do in communities, and things come up at times. And in our world today, there's some fundraising as well as we expand our services and try to help fund communities and help them build their stronger Kollelim in their communities.
Okay, fundraising was not in the prepared questions, but there happens to have been in the last, 10, 15 years, this surge of young 20 and 30-year-olds, yeshiva-lite. How are they playing a role in all of this?
So my fundraising is unique. I'm an employee of BMG. My salary, my expenses are paid for by BMG. I started a new organization called Ichud HaKollelim that allows me to directly fund Kollelim. So the funding that comes through my organization goes to communities that are looking to start up and build a kollel. It's not the full funding. We need the community to invest in it on their own, but we're there really to help them make it happen. And helping smaller kollelim, maybe there's a kollel in a community with 6 younger light and they'd like to grow it, we'll give them funding for a year or two. So it's targeted grants that slowly but surely get less over 2 to 3 years that allows a community to either build a kollel or expand a kollel. Most of my funders are from out-of-town communities, are individuals that have seen firsthand the success of a kollel, what it did for their community, so they want to help the next community as well.
When you come to a community, where do you see where you're most impactful, and where do you see like, no, not my role?
So our role when we come to a new community is to help them appreciate and fully understand what a kollel can do for their community. And also to fully appreciate and understand what the kollel's role in the community is. Because a kollel plays a unique role. It's not a shul, it's not a yeshiva, it's not a school. It's there to have a very, very focused and unique role. And I find that the more we're all on the same page regarding what the kollel is meant to accomplish and how it's meant to accomplish it, the more understanding we have amongst all the key stakeholders communally, the more effective the kollel can be. And what we do really is build trust. I think ultimately the most important thing we can do is that we're viewed as an honest broker. We're there to help the community grow. And our success is the shul's success. Our success is the school's success. Our success is the success of all the other communal organizations. We're adding to it another layer. We're adding to it more Torah study, more learning, more engagement in learning. And our belief and our experience is when people come and learn in the Kollel, they're more involved in the shul. When people come and learn in the Kollel, they want their kids to learn more in the school. So we view ourselves as there to service and help and enhance the entire communal infrastructure.
Interesting. So I'll reflect for a second. It sounds like the exact details, the techniques, the methods, that's for the community. But to define what it could do and what it can't do and what in general the relationships should look like, the level of trust, sounds like that is your lane.
So clearly the first step is building that level of trust. It's also the understanding of what a kollel is meant to do in the community so that the people don't think if there's a kollel here, whenever we need a rabbi for anything, well, they're not doing much anyways. It can be a perspective.
Yeah, utility players.
They're not the utility players in the community. They're there to learn. And part of what a kollel does is where the rabbis, the Avrechim, the Jungelite, are able to sit and learn themselves and grow in learning themselves. So we want them to fully understand what a kollel is. And yeah, even when it comes to details, as the kollel gets implanted in the community and as they're involved in the community, they'll turn to us and say, how should we do this? How do we do this? How do we make sure this works more broadly communally? How do we make sure we stay away from communal politics, if there is that?
Yeah, right?
Big if.
What's the biggest challenge?
What's the biggest challenge in building a kollel in a community?
Let's say that, and then I have another one. But yeah, why don't we start with that?
So many of the communities where we're building kollelim today are smaller communities, because if you look around the country, most of the big cities already have kollel.
Yeah, if more than one.
More than one. So we are involved in building kollel. We built a kollel in Baltimore a year ago. We're putting one in Phoenix now this Sukkot. So there are kollel in big cities, but in the smaller communities, we find it more challenging because the resources are less. The appreciation for what a kollel can do for their community is also less. And trying to get Jungelite to move to a smaller community that may have limited resources from a chinuch perspective and from a Jewish amenity perspective is also more challenging.
Mm-hmm. What's your biggest challenge?
What's my biggest challenge in my job?
Mm-hmm.
My wife always laughs and says, if you know me, by nature, I'm a structured person. Mm-hmm. I'm a very organized person, and my job has no structure. Every day, it's something else. I don't know what I'm doing. Let me explain that. I know that there are things I have to take care of, people I have to speak to, but I get a dozen phone calls a day from across the world on issues I didn't think I'd be dealing with on that day.
Mm-hmm. So it's kind of like on the fly, on the go, emergency room doctor, but not medical.
Exactly.
Wow. Okay. And every single job, if someone wants to do it with their all, it means they're on fire. Is there something that happened to you, an insight, a story, an incident that lit the fire in you and like, you know what, no matter what it takes, I'm all in? What was that for you?
It's a great question. And there are multiple layers to the answer to that question. But when I was a kid, in 1980, 81, I don't remember exactly, I lived in Chicago. And it was an amazing city with dozens of shuls, yeshivas, schools, rabbanim. It was a great city, a lot of people, a lot of frum people, and there was no kollel. And I remember that learning in shuls wasn't something that really happened. And then the kollel came in the early 80s. And I remember the change that happened communally. As a bacher, when I come home from yeshiva, the place I hung out was the kollel. And I remember thinking, one organization can make such a major impact on the city. Now so many shuls have night seder learning. And today in Chicago, there's probably 7, 8, maybe 9 kollelim. But I'm talking about even when the kollel started, within a few years, they made a sea change in the community. And I remember the Jungelite themselves that came to the kollel, each one of them took on different leadership roles in the community. And that really inspired me. It's a position, it's a job, it's a mission that I can do that can make such an amazing impact on a community, really change a city for the good.
Mm-hmm. Wow. And my last question in this segment of the interview comes courtesy of a dear friend, a mentor of mine, Rabbi Aaron Kotler, who wants to know what personal attribute he has had to work on the most to become a leader. And if we need to censor something, we could, but, go for it.
What do I have to work on the most to become a leader?
Mm-hmm.
If I'm a leader, I think anybody who is growing personally and professionally in their job recognizes that there's a lot of areas that need growth. I don't think I can look at it and say, okay, there's one area that made a difference. Aaron Kotler is a mentor of mine as well. And the art of listening is an amazing skill that I've grown in tremendously. The ability to have challenging conversations without getting sucked into the negativity and the frustration of that situation is something that's really powerful. By nature, I like getting along with everybody. I like just being friendly to everybody. And as a leader, sometimes you have to say things and you have to do things that are stronger and not everybody appreciates. And those are things that are all challenging for me on my end. I love the opportunity of this job that forces me to grow in so many amazing areas.
One of the things that I remember, and I met Aaron in Lakewood for the first time. It was something. It was an example that he gave when he spoke to us in Ner Aleph, and it's one of those things that you never would have thought of, but it's actually very reflective. It was the idea of achrayus. And the example he gave was what you would think so petty, but were actually so telling. He said, when someone davens for the Amud, they have the talis they wear, and what do they do after Aleinu? They just put it back on the bima, or they put it back over in the front, or do they actually take 30 seconds to fold the talis? So we could get rid of the smartphones in the Beis Medrash, but what about at least some level of achrayus? You've been working with Rabbi Aaron for quite some time, since 2008, right? Is there something about him regarding his passion for achrayus that you're like, you know what, I want to live up to that standard?
No question. There's 2 points. First of all, he has an amazing sense of achrayus, a feeling of a mission, that he has to bring Torah to the broadest array of communities that he really can. And I think, secondly, he has an amazing vision. Mm-hmm. We're very involved in Europe. We have a European office today, Kollel, and that's something he really pushed. And he's able to see 10 years in advance. And if we put this office there, it will grow. There's new communities. I'm off tomorrow to London and to Rome. Tomorrow. And I'm going with Rabbi Kotler, and we're meeting the leaders of the communities of Athens, Greece, Sofia, Bulgaria, and Helsinki, Finland. Those are communities with minimal Torah infrastructure, but want a kollel, and we're taking them to cities that also have minimal Torah infrastructure. I'm referring to Bournemouth, a suburb of London, as well as Rome in Italy, and showing them what a kollel can happen in their community. And that's really directly related to the vision of Rabbi Aaron.
Wow. Incredible.
I want to share one other thought on that, and I do have a strong sense of achrayus. And when I think myself, why am I so driven to do it? There's no question that I grew up in a home. My father was involved both in chinuch and yeshiva and tells, as well as kiruv, and a home that was as wide open as possible with all sorts of people coming in. And my parents' lives were dedicated, and still are dedicated, to doing what they can for Kollel Yisrael. And my wife comes from a home, Rabbi Avi Shulman, who traveled the country building the seed program. And many of those seed programs built kollel as well. So I was privileged to grow up in an environment that, without preaching achrayus, lived achrayus. And I feel that very deeply.
What a way to segue into our next part of this conversation. You mentioned your father-in-law, your Shver, Rabbi Avi Shulman, and I understand this book just came out, just published, came this week in the mail, right? So my first question is, share personal memories. Off the bat, what comes to mind?
My father-in-law was an amazing person. I went on seed as a bacher. I was probably 18 years old or so at the time. And I was younger than the average age allowed in seed. So I kind of pushed. And when I want something, that's what I do. And he said, come meet me in Manhattan. And I went to Manhattan to meet him at the Torah Masorah offices at the time from Yeshiva of Stanal, where I was learning. And I was taken by his warmth, his joy for life, and his sense of mission. He was in control. He was a man that was fully in control of what he was doing, knew exactly where he was going, but he was able to couple that with a relaxed, happy, joyous nature, which I found very, very unique.
Are there any particular or specific lessons of chinuch or maybe communication skills that you personally took from him?
He was a master mechanech, and he was a master communicator. One thing he always told us, and he taught thousands of younger light in Eish and other programs, it doesn't come naturally.
Really?
Anybody who thinks that you're a perfect master mechanech just by walking into the classroom, maybe 1%. But the other 99% have to work really hard. He was somebody who worked really hard on every single presentation. When he walked in, he had written it all out. He had practiced it. He had prepared it. He'd worked it through for a very long time until it came out the way that he wanted it and the way that he expected it. So if you want to be a master mechanech and if you want to be a master presenter, you really have to work at it.
10,000-hour rule.
The 10,000-hour rule. Yeah, the famous 10,000-hour rule. People that are successful in life worked hard to get there. And he tried to share with young B'nai Torah that they're going to have to practice to become perfect in their area. And I think in his public speaking course, that was something that he mentioned again and again and again. I think it's true of a mechanech as well. In the communication world, I think the same thing is true. There's a lot of preparation when it comes to speaking, but I think there's another powerful lesson that he taught me, and that is you don't have to answer a question right away. It's kind of funny on a podcast, right? We'd call him for something, and he'd say, it's 2:00. Let me sit on it a little bit. Let me sleep on it. Call him the next morning. The day just started. Call me in a couple hours. And to me, that was one of the greatest gifts that I got because I learned when a challenging question comes in, I really don't even know what I'm thinking yet. A day later...
Especially a new question.
Exactly. A day later, I'll know deep within my heart what I feel may be the right answer. I may be wrong. But when something comes up and we're all excited and we have a powerful question and we have a big struggle, we make a quick phone call, we want a 30-second answer, he taught me that wasn't the way to go. Sleep on it. See how you feel about it in the morning. You know, how many times we make a decision and the next day we regret that decision?
When it's on the dime.
When it's on the dime, exactly. So that gift of waiting is one of the main lessons, not one of the main lessons, but one of the many lessons that I share in this book.
Yeah, I could very much relate to that. Anytime I call my Rabbi, Rabbi Yosef Greenfeld Shlita, any critical question, it's always, let me think about that.
I do want to say that the one opening letter in the book is from Rabbi Avram Greenfield, the Rebbe's father, who was very, very close to our family, to Mr. Shulman, my father-in-law, and all the Shulman family. Wrote a beautiful note in the beginning.
I think one of the challenges when you want to learn from someone professionally, and they're also mishpacha, is, I don't know, do you separate the two? Do you blend the two? What was that like for you?
For me, he was a father-in-law, and he was somebody that was mishpacha. I recognized the gift that I had, and I asked him for advice on different things. But our relationship was a relationship of a father-in-law to a son-in-law. It was a warm, loving relationship. I used to learn with him weekly for many years.
Oh, wow.
On Friday mornings, we'd learn a thought on the Parsha. And I called him with many questions because he was a wise man. But I didn't feel it was like a professional relationship on any level. It was a father-in-law to a son-in-law, and like we speak to those who are close to us and we get their guidance on things.
Yeah, there's so many things I could remember. In Ner Lalef, he spoke to us quite a few times.
Sure.
So many Vertlach, with Shmuel B'Kairei Shmo, the power of davening for a child like Shmuel. Do you know that word offhand?
Sure, of course.
Can you say it?
It seems that Chazal tell us that before Shmuel HaNavi was born, Klal Yisrael knew someone would be called Shmuel and would be a Navi. And at that time, any woman who had a child called their child Shmuel, with the hopes that this child would become the great Navi Shmuel HaNavi. Now, not all of them did, but Shmuel B'Korah Shmo, many of them became Nevi'im at a more basic level than Shmuel Navi. Many of them became great. My father-in-law would always point out that if we have high hopes, and if we have a vision, and if we have great goals, we'll accomplish amazing things.
Wow. Beautiful. Just on Friday, I was listening to one of Sroy Bornstein's epic raid bites, or as he would say, classic, Shiba classic. It was actually something similar about she'ifas, thinking big. We had a Rami Ovid Avi, and did he actually kill Klal Yisrael? But Rashi says that Bikesh, he wanted to. What's interesting is in the Agada, we bring up Lavan, and we're supposed to be like knocking down Paro, like Paro everything, and then we bring up, Paro only wanted to, the Zcharim, but Lavan Bikesh is a call. So what's Pshat? So he says something fascinating, very similar to what you're saying, and that is, Paro knew the final solution does not exist. There's no such thing. Lavan didn't know that. But Paro, the reason why he's a step worse is because, I know what won't work, and I'm going to double down on what does work. Nevertheless, even though Lavan was attempting to do something that was impossible, it was still Bikesh Ki'ilu Asa. Fascinating. Because he wanted as if he did. So Sroy, I think he was quoting someone too, but same thing works with she'ifos. If your Bikesh, even if it's above you, if that's what you want, it's Ki'ilu Asa. It's as if you did it. One of the things that I remember your father-in-law talked to us about, life goals, year goals, life goals. It was like an exercise, right? And just be able to check in with yourself. And we're going to be releasing this, I would say, somewhere in the Sarasime Tshuva, I hope. And I hope that could be something that people could, write them down, right? They say that if you write down your goals,
You're way ahead of most people.
You're way ahead of most people. Yeah, exactly.
A person, when he makes goals, first of all, the fact that we have a goal puts you ahead of many people. There's a number of chapters in the book about how to pick a goal and how to make it realistic and how to make it work. But my father used to always say that life is meaningful when we have a goal. And the greater the goal, the more meaningful our life is. When we're working towards something, whether it's working on a midah, whether it's accomplishing something in business, whether it's learning something in a sefer, whether it's having a more organized home or being a more calm mother, and we have a plan to work on it, it gives our lives meaning. And we shouldn't be going through life haphazardly. If there's one of the most powerful messengers of Mr. Shulman is live your life by design. You're the CEO. You're in charge. He empowered each and every person that he met to live a greater life, live a bigger life, live a life that they designed and they were the CEO of.
It sounds like the journey, the goal and the journey to that. It actually reminds me of someone in Columbus, Dr. John Frank. He's a Baal Tshuva. He's also a 2-time Super Bowl champion. Today, Shem Shab is involved with the shul and the school, the chinuch, everything. But he said something fascinating that I'll never forget. He was talking to some of our young professionals, in our outreach and Kiruv program, and he really never wanted to play football. Professionally, but he got a scholarship of playing college at Ohio State. This is years before he became a Baal Tshuva. But you get the call that a team wants you, you start rethinking. But he always wanted to become a doctor, go to medical school. Interesting. After he won his second Super Bowl, he's like, okay, enough. I got 2 Super Bowls, nice career. He had a catch on a winning drive. So he decided, I'm going to go back to medical school. And he said to us, he said this publicly so I could share, he fell into a big depression. He says, you know why? I don't have that goal anymore. The journey's over. And you're at the top. Like, what's your next goal? So he had to make new goals. He had to make a different career to be able to bring that drive back. I just thought that was so powerful and consistent.
When a person is working towards a goal, there's such a sense of mission. And I think you're making a great point the individual we become on the journey is probably many times more important than the goal itself. Because we become a different person. When we work towards something and we change ourselves and we challenge ourselves and we grow, we become a different person than we started. And that's, to me, many times the greatest gift I get is in the journey and the person I become. When I'm thinking about my own role in building Kollel, or the person that I've become through the process. A stronger person, a bigger person, a person with a broader vision, a person that can accomplish more, a person that has more energy and more excitement to building. That's the person that I've become through trying to help others. And sometimes we forget that's what happens in the process, and a really important piece of that.
Now let's cherry pick a few of the greats, which I know is hard when the list is very long. But I'll share with you one or two. My favorite, Rabbi Avi Shulman's. Number one, the 3 speeches. The one you prepared, the one you said, the one that people heard. And what are you doing to make sure they're all the same? That was a good one. The radio. Are you familiar with the radio station called WIFM? You
No.
never heard that one?
No.
So everyone listens to the same radio station, WIFM, which stands for What's in It for Me. When you talk to people, you got to be Erlich, you got to be MS, but are you saying something that's going to speak to them, not what speaks to you? So those were 2 of my really, I still use them today. Can you cherry pick something?
Sure. In 1997, my wife and I moved from Eretz Yisrael to St. Louis to join the Kollel. And about a year in, I recognized we were in an amazing community. Many Baalei Tshuva, but many of the people there did not have the Gemara learning skills necessary to learn with their children after school. And I felt that if they would have those skills, it would enhance their relationship with their kids, would allow them to grow in their own Yiddishkeit. And I thought it was something really, really important. And at that time, I brought down somebody from Baltimore, a cousin of mine, Rabbi Tzvi Good, who ran a program called Yesodei HaTorah, which taught people the basics of learning Gemara. And I went to the different rabbis in town, and I told them what I was doing. I put up a sign. And I remember being in shock that like 70 people came to this program. And I was this young guy, and why are 70 people coming just because I put up a sign? And I realized something resonated. There's something really powerful here. We started the program, 4 levels, and people were learning, and it was really great. And I remember when I shared it with my father-in-law, he said to me, you want to be really successful? Double your rate of failure.
Whoa.
It's from a world-famous CEO. And what I realized then is, if you don't fail, it doesn't mean you didn't fail. It means you didn't try. You see, it's impossible to be successful at everything.
You don't learn from success. You learn more from failure.
And you won't succeed if you're not failing. If a company is not failing, that means they're not accomplishing. You cannot accomplish if you're not failing. If you study large companies, none of them, the healthy ones at least, achieve all of their goals in any given year. That means they weren't stretch goals. They weren't pushing themselves hard enough.
And if they did, maybe their goals wasn't big
Exactly.
enough. Yeah.
Exactly. But the companies that got this right, they're never achieving all of their goals in any given year. And he taught me to keep on trying. And he taught me that failure is a stepping stone to growth. And I believe companies that stay safe, and the same thing is true with organizations, ultimately fail. They fail at their mission. They fail at accomplishing. Because if you're not failing, you're not trying. That was an amazing little story, little comment there that made a profound difference in how I view what I do.
Wow. That reminds me of 2 years ago we interviewed Jay Schottenstein. He was talking about his father who really started the Schottenstein stores and how he grew into an empire. But I asked him something that his father always asked. What the question was, where did we go wrong? And that was a question they always asked. Now, getting back to the book, what inspired you to write this, and what do you hope people take from?
So my father-in-law passed away almost 3 years ago now. And for those who knew my father-in-law, he didn't like articles about him. When he passed away, he had in his will, please don't write articles in the newspapers about me.
Well, it's not a newspaper now.
He was a private person, and the family was reticent really to write a book at that point. And when it came close to the first yard site, I felt we should do something.
Yeah.
So I sat down, and I just wrote some thoughts to myself of life lessons I learned from him, 20-some lessons. And I just gave it to an editor and printed it and printed 200 copies and gave it out to the family at the first yard site, just so there should be something that was meaningful to me and I felt would be meaningful to others to give out. And the feedback was amazing. The family loved it. And the publisher was a publisher, Ali Zayas in Lakewood. They're really self-publishing. They ended up putting the front cover of the book on one of their ads. And it wasn't for sale. It was just I printed 200 copies. And I got so many phone calls from people. They wanted the book. It was like week after week, months later, people were calling me, emailing me, can I get the book? I didn't have any. Just gave it out. Thank God, a lot of grandchildren, Baruch Hashem. So, there wasn't any. And I realized there's a bigger need. And at that point, the family wasn't going to write a book. Now they are working on it. And a year from now, hopefully a biography will come out. But at that point, they weren't planning on doing that. So I said, you know what? I'm going to keep on writing. And I'm going to finish it and send it out to the siblings and see if they feel this is something that's worthy of being published, then I'll publish it. If not, it was a good exercise anyways in thinking about what he meant to me. And the goal here isn't complicated. He was an amazing person. He was somebody who had structure in his life to a great degree, but also was the most relaxed and happy person you ever met. How do you put those things together? He was somebody who was so growth-oriented. And we think of people growth-oriented on a mission, people didn't know how to relax. And he knew how to relax. And he has so much wisdom. He started Seed. He built it across the country, and so many Kollelim started from it. There's a lot to talk about that story. But what drove him to start Seed? What did he see Seed accomplishing in a community? What did he see Seed doing for the Junge Light? How did he appreciate and how did he value a Kollel in a community, and how did he explain that? What was his process in goal setting? And I think there's another point, and that is how he dealt with challenges. One of the greatest gifts I received from him is watching him deal with the challenges that he faced in life. My mother-in-law passed away close to 30 years ago as a young woman.
Oh, wow.
And I watched them go through the process of her illness, 2-year illness. And I share in the book so many lessons from how he taught us how to deal with challenges. And since he was an organized person, a thinking person, he shared with us, here's the mantra. Here are the steps we take. Here's how we deal with the most challenging experiences of our lives. So I wanted people to learn, how do we deal with challenges in life? How are we happy people? How do we set goals for ourselves? How do we educate our children? And I came up with 96 amazing ideas and lessons that I learned from him that I wanted to share.
Wow, 96.
Yeah.
What do you hope to accomplish to honor and perpetuate Rabbi Avi Shulman?
So I feel that if anybody who picks up this book and reads it is inspired, there can be no greater gift to me personally. That's really my only goal here. I want people to be inspired by his messages, by his lessons, by the life he led. When someone leaves this world, they're gone. There's not much that they can do anymore for their own neshama. But when others learn from them and grow from them, Chazal say, Bra kara d'avu, a child is the foot of the father. They can keep on walking. They can keep on moving through the children, the sons-in-law, the grandchildren. I wanted to give it to the grandkids as well. I'm giving all the grandkids the book. I want them to have it in their home, to know what a special grandfather they had, and to perpetuate his memory and his legacy. And I'm hoping that every person that reads this book takes the same thing out of it, takes powerful lessons that make a difference in their life.
Beautiful. And they could buy it now?
It should be in the stores if it's Aser Smichuva. Yeah. They can buy it now. It's on Amazon.
Oh, it's Amazon?
Yeah,
okay.
And it's in the bookstores. And we're looking forward to really impacting a lot of people. That's really the only goal here.
How about if someone shares with me feedback from the book, and if it's 1 or if it's 10, maybe we'll do some sort of lottery, signed copy by Rabbi Levitansky?
Greatest pleasure.
And there's nothing like a good story. Can you share with us one?
Of course. After my father-in-law passed away, this is how sometimes my worlds collide, but someone I was working with on a Kollel said to me, I was a client of your father-in-law's, and I want to share with you a great story. He said, I'm a businessman in real estate, and I hired your father-in-law as a coach. In his later years, he became a business and life coach. And together we worked through goals. And he says, your father-in-law, my life goals, my religious Torah goals, my business goals, my family goals. And then at the end of the process, he had me bring in my wife. He said, I want your wife to come down because you and your wife have to be on the same page on all of your goals. And as I sat there with my wife, we went through everything, all of the goals in all the areas of my life. And when we finished, I turned to your father-in-law and I said, Mr. Shulman, can I ask you a question? He said, sure. What's your goal? Mm-hmm. And he said to me, your father-in-law gave me a big, wide smile. I said, that's a great question.
Yeah.
You really want to know my goal?
Mm-hmm.
And I said, yeah. And he says, you really want to know my goal?
Yeah.
And I said, yeah. He says, listen well. My goal is to get to Olam Haba. And he looks at me and he says, I was waiting for the punchline.
Yeah.
And I realized there was none. Here's a man who was in his early 80s, and he said, you know what? I have a goal. My goal is I'm going to meet my maker. I'm going to get to the next world. And just like in every area of life, successful people have goals they're working on. At that stage in life, this was his goal. And he was working towards what can he do to make sure he enters Olam Haba.
Wow.
And I thought it was an amazing thing. And how he actually lived in every area of his life what he taught to others.
What a perspective to think about our mortality. Wow. Maybe we got number 97 for the book.
No, this is
it's
the
in
last
the 96,
one. Yeah. And there are a number of chapters on mortality and how he approached his death.
Wow.
It's powerful lessons.
I'm so excited to read it. Wow. Okay. Well, Rabbi Levitansky, this has been an honor, a pleasure. Thank you for welcoming me to your home and joining the program. I would be remiss not to say it's been a zchus for me, and I'm going to speak for our Kollel, Rabbi Morris, Rabbi Teichman, and the great... And by the way, Rabbi Teichman, that's a seed product. So just coming full circle. But we really appreciate everything you've done. It's been a zchus to welcome you to our community. And, did I tell you about our dinner in November, the 19th?
I think so.
Yeah, I did, right? Okay.
On my calendar.
It's on your calendar.
Yeah.
Good. I wasn't sure if I could put you on the spot or not, but we'll talk off mic. But in any event, thank you so much for joining the program. It's my birchas hadjat that, number one, you continue what you're doing. Kollel, I can't even say around the country. It's really around the globe. Where are you going again tomorrow?
We're going to be in Leeds. We'll be in Borehamwood, near London, and then in Rome.
In Rome, wow.
Home for Shabbos.
Also, that this book really inspires so many people to be the best them. And what as I was listening to you, I realized this is not just for mechanchim. It's for everyone.
This book is for everyone. Yeah, and I appreciate the opportunity, Rabbi Hillel, in being able to share this with you. This book is another mission for me to be able to share the message and legacy of my father-in-law, and I value our relationship, our friendship, and our working together outside of this book, and I thank you for the opportunity.
Wow, thank you so much.
To listen to all Kollel episodes and see upcoming guests, visit kollelpodcast.com. We are also on all podcast players. Type in Kollel on iTunes, Spotify, Google, Stitcher, Podbean, and Amazon. Share with your friends and please make sure to give us a 5-star review. Kollel is a project of the Columbus Community Kollel, a full-time Jewish learning center in Bexley, staffed with high-caliber Torah scholars. Ever since 1995, boys, girls, men, and women from all backgrounds and affiliations have found many opportunities to connect with Torah and mitzvos at the Kollel. Whether it's a study partner, an engaging lesson, or a program, the Kollel is your one-stop shop for all your Jewish learning. If you want to know how you can benefit from the Kollel, visit thekollel.org. That is TheKollel.org, and forever be inspired.